Good morning, student. My name is Shivam Mishra, and let's get started the today's newspaper analysis. The first article is about the data centers, which we have already talked about. There was a article in previous newspaper about the data centers causing the environmental pollution. So to upgrade this, or we can say to adopt more technology driven solution, recently Google has came up with the project Suncatcher. This has been brought up by the Google. This is actually a data center which will be placing in the low earth orbit, approx 400 kilometer from the earth surface, to address the rising energy demand, because we can directly get the energy from sun here. ISRO recently is also reportedly studying this technology. AI data centers require dense cluster of GPUs for machine learning work and leading to increased energy consumptions, which we had already studied in that some of the AI required 4 gigawatt per hour of the energy, uh, or LLMs, especially large language models, which required a lot of energy to be trained. And this was creating an energy uh, concentration of energy use at only one sectors, so the other sectors were in deficit. So that is why these things are programs has been these initiatives has been taken. And traditional data centers focus on content delivery, while AI data centers need a high internal bandwidth, exemplified by Microsoft's Fairwater complexes. Fairwater complexes. This is Microsoft AI data center. This word becomes important because in sometimes in prelims the question may ask like this: the keywords are related to. They will be giving the 1, 2, 3 or 4 keywords, and it will be asking the question that the keyword is related to. So Fairwater is a kind of AI data center of Microsoft. Project Suncatcher envision a satellite constellation. It's similar like Starlink project, where there is a constellation of number of satellites to provide the internet facilities, with densely choreographed cluster, maintaining a light of sun light sight with the sun. Technologies like multiplexing would enable efficient data distribution and power management. But there is a problem, there is a catch to it, because these data centers will be great threat from the solar radiation, like solar mass ejection and other solar radiations, or any kind of uh, intra-galaxy or any kind of space activities which can hinder the working of data centers, or even can cause a great defect to it. So, and there is one of the more concern is that economic feasibility. That is, the article talks about the two concern of it. One is a natural concern, other is the economic concern. That is the cost to make those kind of data centers and lift it up to the low earth orbit. That is a hectic task and required a huge labor force, and of course a finance. And that is why these programs are still being carried out, so that the data centers can be made more efficient and more reliable for the future generations, balancing between development and the economy. Next article talks about space flight alters immune genes. There was a study in Dubai This is a scientific study which tells us that the the researcher examines the effect of space flight on human cells. That is the effect on human cells when they are in space, especially the international space stations or other space activities, and what are the effect on the human cells. And thus it was found out that there was of course, alteration in gene expression related to heart function, nervous system, and senses. Potentially, astronauts had a greater health risk. This becomes the study becomes important because we are planning, like some of the companies also, even our government also is planning for rehabilitation of people to Mars or Moon in future generations. So these studies becomes important so that we can study the health impacts and try to find out the solutions to reduce its impact or even to eliminate it. There was a effect on DNA repairs and cell divisions, especially the genes were affected. They found less effective in space, indicating long-term health risk. And thus these there was a research on the astronauts who MRI scans on the astronauts whose held were head down tilted rest study. This is this there was a earlier studies also where it was found that the size of the skull and the brain deformation. So these kind of studies has been made earlier, and there was one of the study which have been taken in Dubai. This is all we now have to know about this. The next article talks about ISRO's PSLV. There was recently a defunct, or you can say a failure in a launch of satellite C-62 mission. This there was a um, the point of concern is that this is actually a PSLV is considered as horse of ISRO. So there has been a launch of rockets, or we can say uh, the satellites through these launching vehicles, PSLV launch vehicles. We need to know the static information out of it. That becomes important because this is, although in news, it has been asked in the previous year question also. The PSLV becomes important, a four-stage rocket, and most of maximum launch has been taken by ISRO's only because of the successful of the PSLV. But recently, during the launch of Earth observation satellite N1 satellite and 15 co-passenger satellites. Co-passenger means it was carrying the satellites of other countries also. But there was a an anomaly during the PS3 stage, leading to deviation in a flight path, and thus the mission was failure. ISRO chairman V. Narayanan reported a disturbance in vehicle rules. It rotates towards the end of the third stage and causing the rocket to spin uncontrollably, preventing it from the planned trajectory. There was a Thailand's co-passenger co-stress satellites, uh, which was named GISTDA, GISTDA, whose Theos 2A satellite. So we need not to know about the names of these kind of satellites. We don't have to remember also these names. But one of the most important concern is that till now the PSLV has been a workhorse of ISRO, and it was considered as a most successful and more efficient. Either we can talk about its working or a cost of it. So this has been dented because of the failure of these programs, and thus because there was a C-16 missions also failed. The previous missions, a just previous missions mission before the C-62, and which creates issues like failure to deploy payloads into the designated orbit. There is a wing of committee of ISRO, that is Failure Analysis Committee, constituted after PSLV C1 C61 failure, and is responsible for reconstructing event leading to failures and recommending corrective actions. This is the committee which reads or study the failure, its cause, and suggest the recommendation to correct that failure. And but its report has not been released publicly yet. PSLV C-62 missions primarily payload was Earth observation satellites and one a surveillance satellite from Defense Research and Development Organization with co-passenger satellites alike of Thailand, UK, Nepal, France, Spain, Brazil, and Indian enterprises. The mission was facilitated by ISRO's commercial arm New Space India Limited and marked the first time PSLV failed while carrying customer satellite from both India and foreign entities. Thus, it becomes a point of concern because India is planning its space tourism. It was planning for space services, and there was other plans of India like its indigenous plan itself will get hampered. Like Gaganyaan, we had the various indigenous projects like Gaganyaan. There is a Venus program also. We need the Antariksh station also. So these programs will be get affected by these failures. So next topic is about the revival of Tamil history culture, and this is the article talks about the Tamil history and how it should be mm, how it should be read and how it should be recited in the public. And there was also the contribution of Pallavas, Pandyas, and all those three deep south uh, dynasties like Cheras. We had the Cholas, we have the Pandyas. So all that article talks about the Tamil history, its reconstructions and its reinterpretations, so that we can come across, we can unsettle the questions of Tamil relations with. There was a question in which it was a debatable topics still have been remaining in the history among the historians, that is there the Dravidians are indigenous people of India or not? Is that they are Aryan who migrated or they are indigenous? So, to construct this history, there was a book by was been authored by the Nirmala Lakshman. The book was The Tamil A Portrait of Community. So this becomes an important, but not so, because it has very narrow perspective, a very narrow topic it is covering. So mainly the books and authors has been asked especially the books which covered whole part of India, or there is a common consensus to that topic. So this is not so important, but still, we if you're reading the newspaper, you should go through all these content so that it can help you while in writing the mains answer, or it can also help you to recall some information related to that, like the informations Pallavas, Pandyas, Cheras, Cholas. These dynasties becomes important. This has been important in UPSC because it has been already asked even in pre plus mains. Next topic, there is a council arbitration council of India. This, of course, we understand the meaning of arbitration. Arbitration is like outside court settlement. The union government has Of course, we know, we are well aware that there is a burdens on courts, because there is a number of cases which has been, the reason is the burden on the courts is that number of cases pending. I can't write the exact data because I can't recall the exact data, but I remember the reason why there is a pending number of cases. The judges per case or per population is very low. There is also a delay in judgments. We have seen that most of the judgments last even to the 8 years or 10 years, and then the decisions taken by the court, there has been various number of cases in delays. As we know, there is a cases where we had the less infrastructure also, we don't have the time management also. So all these things becomes creates a court system or the judiciary most we can say a lapsible or time taking, or you can say it delays. It is always told, there is a quote, that justice delayed is justice denied. So in order to fasten the judiciary system of India, there is a arbitration systems involved. It is out of court settlement. Union government has not yet constituted the Arbitration Council of India, which was proposed in 2019. Amendments to the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. There was an amendment to our Arbitration and Conciliation Act to constitute a body, Arbitration Council of India, which act as a central regulatory body for arbitration in India. The 2019 amendment, based on High Level Committee on Arbitration recommendation, proposed Arbitration Council of India to grade arbitral institution, recognize bodies accrediting arbitrator, and maintain a repository of arbitral awards, with chairperson appointed in consultation with. Of course, the article talks about how the chairperson of Arbitration Council of India should be elected. It tells about the elected or else appointed by with the consultation with Chief Justice of India. There is a concern about the impartiality issue, because the article tells us that there is a, due to government appointed members, because you know that there is a government is a largest litigant especially, and that is why if the government will be appointing the members of the Arbitration Council of India, there is more chances that it hampers the partiality of decisions. So these are the issues. There is some other points like grading institutions inspired by Singapore and Hong Kong, as it oversees multiple institutions, potentially diluting the standard and increasing administrative demands, with excluding foreign legal professionals from arbitrator pools. The Arbitration and Conciliation Bill, Amendment Bill 2024, released on October 2024, proposed a structural reform redefining arbitral institution. The draft bill seeks limit courts' power to grant interim measures to before arbitration starts or after an award is rendered, amending sections 9 clause 2. So these are the points which need to be at least gone through, so that we can understand the recently brought bill in 2025. There was a proposed amendment to that, where the arbitration should be redefined, and all those provisions like interim measures, the decision of that, the 90-day period from application due to interim relief, and emergency arbitration missions, dominance of ad hoc arbitration, these need to be discussed. So all the this article becomes important because we still are facing the judiciary burdens, and still we need to speedify our justice system and make it more robust, more friendly to the citizens, and it should not be the justice should not be delayed. Next topic is, there is a Vande Bharat sleeper train which has been run from Kolkata to Guwahati. This is not at all important to our prelims examination, but it becomes important for mains answer writing. The information itself becomes important because it is directly connected to our transport sector, especially covering the social sectors. And there was four additional Amrit Bharat Express services were launched, and there was, so all these things have been uh, taken place. We should not actually, as an aspirant, we should not connect it with the political issues. Of course there is, but we should not go to in the politics. So try to connect it through our UPSC syllabus and just move ahead. There was a book, we already mentioned one book. There is other book is like uh, Ghazala Wahab. He has written a book, The Hindi Heartland Study. It tells about especially the Hindi language. It is primarily spoken in Indo-Gangetic Valley. See, the Hindi has been, uh, according to the constitution also, it has been suggested that it should be made and it should be promoted, and so thus in the language need to be, it was adopted mainly especially to unify the diversity and to create one language like French, English, and promote it to the at a global level. So this was a motive of this, but with the promotion of Hindi, it should be taken into account the linguistic minority should also be protected. That's why there was a clause of linguistic officers, and there was a clause of where we had the protection of language. That article, this is a fundamental articles which has been provided for the protection of language, culture, tradition. So there is always, we have seen, not always, but from the long ago, from independence only, after the reorganization of states based on language, to still a debates over the national language, or there has been debates over north and south states over the Hindi and uh, other languages. So this has been a point of debate, and that is why this books comes into more light. And this book only talks about that despite concerns about political influence, Wahab, the Ghazala Wahab, believes that Hindi heartland will maintain its significance due to its large population, because we are well aware that Hindi has been spoken by large population of India. So next article talks about, there was a news where the former Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chanchud, emphasized that no area of the Constitution should be immune from judicial review, including those over the national security. It should be carefully scrutinized by the court. Chanchud highlighted the issue with national security laws that undermine national security laws, especially like we got UAPA, and of course, I don't know but we can guess out that this could be related to case of Umar Khalid, or there was a case there when these peoples were denied the bail, and based on the security, national security issues, and maybe this could not be the point, but maybe highlighting those points, he came up with the argument, and he highlighted the issue of national security laws that undermine the presumption of innocence. The presumption of innocence, because the Indian laws talk is about that the person is innocent until proven guilty, so it undermines the presumption, a fundamental principle of bail, and stress that rising national security as a defense does not end judicial review. And of course, judicial review has been a broadening in India since a time of 70s or 80s. So after the Keshavanand Bharti case, and there has been a broadening in judicial review in India, because until the time we also involved the natural principle of justice and procedure established by law and due process of law. We have got inducted all three methods: due process of law, procedure established by law, we got the principle of natural justice. So all these have been included. Inclusive decision making has been taking on these place. So judicial review, according to him, should be applied on each area of constitution. He noted the difference between Indian society and others, like United States, regarding free speech, cautioning against state regulation of social media content, and advocating for independent regulatory institutions. He underscored the importance of citizens in sustaining democracy, stating that they are crucial in observing and engaging with governance institutions. He criticized Supreme Court decision to strike down the electoral bond scheme, arguing that legalizing anonymous political donations would legitimize. Of course, there was a electoral bond scheme case, electoral bond, we must be aware of this. If in case you guys are not aware of this, must read somewhere from the Google, or still you can refer the Lakshmikant book where it has been explained in very detail. Electoral bond schemes, there was a case related to electoral bond schemes, and the case was about the donations made by the people should be anonymous, or it should be brought into the public. So there was a scheme where Supreme Court came up with the decision that all the donation list, the people who are come donating, even the company and the at individual level, it should be brought into the public area. So he talked about that anonymous political donations will legitimize the political corruption. Thus, he 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 suggested this solution to balance between because there was a case of stray dog where Supreme Court judge has directly get brought came up with the decision that it should be removed from whole NCR region. So there, according to that, he criticized the Supreme Court and suggested a solution which should be based on compassion and public safety. I am writing these keywords not because of I have to write. I write these keywords so that these keywords can be used while writing the main answers. These keywords becomes very much important. Presumption of innocence, compassion versus public safety. So there could be a cases in ethics paper 4 where it can ask the scenario where you have to treat the people and we have to maintain the safety also. So these area becomes and more important. These keywords become more important. If you directly mention that it has been suggested by the former CJI, that becomes more authentic and more substantiative. Let's come to the next topic. There was a center state government should cut deficit. According to Arvind Subramaniam, a former chief economic advisor to the government of India, highlighted India's high fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit, of course, we know when expenditure increases income. So he highlighted the India's high fiscal deficit, which has been around 10% of GDP annually since 1991, as a downside of its precocious democracy that accommodates demands from all societal sections. He emphasized that India's fiscal position is vulnerable, but high growth level have helped sustain it, suggesting that both center and state government should reduce deficit. Both center and state should reduce the deficit. There was a law also which has been, or you can say there was a parliamentary act which has been passed, and the suggestion has been made, or target had been set to reduce the fiscal deficit both by central and state governments. Subramaniam speaking, the former chief economic advisor, speaking at a session titled India's Path to Development with Devesh Kapoor and co-author of a sixth community Humanity Independent India's Development Odysseys, advocate for cooperative federalism. Of course, we should be knowing this word as mentioned in the polity sections of our syllabus. So we need to maintain the cooperative federalism, and and fiscal deficit has been a point of concern which is growing since, which is high in recent times. So it should be tackled with a more balanced approach where a development should not be compromised, but the finance management should be in such a way that it must increase the income level and reduce the expenditure. But if we can make the expenditure, if we can make this expenditure, increasing the expenditures and increasing the income level in a different pace rate, then we can balance the growth of India. There was a petroleum industry which talks about the Oil Industry Development Board (SIS). It has recently asked the government to reduce the cess, which has been levied at 20% on an ad valorem basis. This keyword becomes important. Ad valorem. This is the tax based on value. So as the value increases, tax also increases. This we need to know, the tax on value. Recently, the next article talks about the caste dominates admissions. There was a Congress leader on 10th death anniversary of Rohit Vemula. A Congress leader, Rahul Gandhi, highlighted a caste-based discrimination faced by Dalit students in higher education. Recently, we have also read an article where UGC came up with the articles inducting OBC caste also in the ambit of caste-based discrimination and making it punishable offense. So he highlighted this issue. Rahul Gandhi and the opposition leader highlighted the issue of caste-based discrimination faced by Dalit in the higher education institutions. So he calling for an anti-discrimination law. Gandhi emphasized that Vamula's life and death questioned the equality of opportunity in India. as institutionalized casteism continues to affect Dalit students' dignity and progress. He argues that proposed Rohit Vemula Act, and thus, but this has been a political conflict, but this has been a serious issue in India. That there, the caste discrimination is still perceive in not only the hinterlands of India but also in the mainlands and in even the education institutions. That is why uh, there was suggestions where the all kind of students should be treated alike in the students, especially in the school days, so that the mindset of discrimination should be removed or taken off from their minds. Next article talks about wind energy producers. Wind energy producers are advocating for PLI scheme to reduce import dependency on critical components and rationalize import duties in upcoming union budget. So this is all we need to know about this. So rest, this is all about today's news analysis. Thank you for watching.